With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
New season, new chaos in college football.
Let's go! Big stage, big opportunity.
This Labor Day weekend, the wildness lives on ABC, ESPN, and the all-new ESPN app.
What a way to start!
Featuring top 10 teams like Clemson, Notre Dame, Alabama, and LSU, and Bill Belichick's debut at North Carolina.
It's so special when these teams collide.
Don't miss a lineup filled with electric matchups.
Welcome back to college football.
Kickoff week presented by Modelo. Labor Day weekend on ESPN and ABC. Also available to stream on the all-new ESPN app.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Spotify. That's greenlight.com/Spotify.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there's one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Hello and welcome to episode 261 of the Washed Up Emo podcast. I am Tom Mullen from washedupemo.com. Today on the podcast, we welcome back David Bazan. He was last on episode 149 back in 2019. We are back again today to talk about the Headphones 20th anniversary that came out a couple months ago on Suicide Squeeze. Please check that out. It is very, very cool. Some new bonus tracks, great liner notes, and we get deep into the Headphones record. Also, we talk about upcoming tours, including with Grandaddy, and we talk Best Friends Forever Festival. Pedro the Lion's going to be there and playing hits across the catalog. So that'll be very, very fun. And we talk about how his last interview changed my life for the better. So I hope you enjoy. This is episode 261 of the Washed Up Emo podcast with David Bazan, talking 20th anniversary of Headphones.
This is Dave.
Hi, Dave. This is Tom Mullen.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Is this still a good time?
It is great. And do you want to do it over the phone?
Yes. I am so old school. There is no need to look at each other.
That is great.
That's the thing I'm noticing with band interviews. I've been doing this, for so long, and everyone's like, so what's the Zoom link? I'm like, I don't need to see you.
We've been doing it this other way for 50 years. It's fine.
Yeah. You were on episode 149 100 years ago. I just want to say thank you for, you being so open back in 2019 before the world kind of was different.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
And kind of how shifts and changes. And I just it does fall into sort of what we're going to talk about, but I just sometimes those smaller things get said to you and they get remembered and people don't realize that. And probably for you, a lot of people have said that, but what you had kind of said, like, I'd never said that before, was so profound to hear because you get interviewed all the time.
Yeah. And some conversations, I think of here, I don't know about chess, but I heard a podcast about chess and how so many of the games that are played or matches or whatever, this is how little I know, are on book, or they follow the same guidelines and the same moves that
right.
And that when two masters will play with each other, there'll be a moment where, in some cases, where they start making moves that have never been made before, and they go off book, maybe is what it's called. Again, it was a podcast, but that's what it makes me think of, is just like when you kind of get into new territory because of something in the interaction. That's really cool.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And then I'm psyched you're going to be at Best Friends.
Just to be totally honest, when I saw it announced last year, it hurt my feelings so bad to not be on the roster. Because I just was like, we don't do very many festivals. There aren't very many festivals that what I do will work at, I think. And that was one where I just was like, oh, my FOMO was so fucking strong. And so when we got the offer this year, it was just a nice kind of salve. I don't feel that way very much about things. Like I just do my thing and know I'm going to get what I get. And I won't throw a fit about it, but man, when I saw that announced, I just was like, those are like all my friends and my favorite bands. And this is a perfect fest for my band. And so I'm just so thrilled to get to play it.
Fuck yeah.
Festivals always have bands that you like, but this was like, I don't know, it just represented my record collection, or like my, in a way more aptly than any other festival I've been to or played. Yeah, it was really cool.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that?
I don't know. I don't know why. I think that festivals, playing whatever could be considered indie rock, I like songs, I like bands, I like people who make records themselves, or people who make records. I like polish and I like big production and all that too, but there's just something, and my trajectory as a musician and a songwriter and a recording person has just all been with friends and with people that I know from going to shows in my town. And there's something very organic about what people refer to as indie rock. And it's so funny. I don't even know if that's an apt descriptor for the lineup at Best Friends, but it's in this world of organic band music that is where I feel most at home. And I think that I think I've understood that it doesn't sell tickets the way that big pop acts can, or, you got to have like a diverse, musically diverse bill at big festivals to attract as many different kind of people as possible. And I understand that it's a business and all this, but it's just really neat. I don't know. Just when you see, I need to look at the list again, because
it wasn't like hippie-ish, but it felt hippie-ish.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's the thing, is that we've all become aware. The music that, so I'm looking now.
Yeah, looking now.
Bright Eyes, and Sunny Day, and Captain Jazz, and the Jesus Lizard, and Unwound, and D-Plan, and Built to Spill, American Football, Get Up Kids, Jawbox, Pinback, Murder City, Devil's Braid. Karate. It just goes on and on of this music that it's informed by hardcore.
Yep.
It's informed by pop music. It's informed by, these things. But I think that all of us have become aware of pop music in like we're in the same, like we're doing the same thing as like these big pop acts, or there's an awareness of like the production values or the appeal of, and I don't think that it's necessarily conscious, but we're all in this ecosystem where we're confronted constantly with like, oh, well, this is doing this, and this, you're at these festivals with these other bands or these other acts that were formed from a very different equation, all valid, of course, but there's something about being on a bill with a bunch of bands who were formed by a similar equation to what you were, that does remind you of coming up and the communal, the community, it's a thing where when a band gets, when an artist puts out a record, and then you get some critical acclaim, and you get some people listening to it, we all spend that capital in pretty much the same way. We go national. We got to the point where we made that record and we got that acclaim by living in our community, playing in our community, the incubator of our local music scene. And then once you get that capital, you take it and you spend it nationally. You play less local shows. Your booking agent is telling you you can't play locally as much. There's all these reasons that why we all leave the scene that we started in and the community. It's not a scene. Scene can be a negative word. I'm meaning it in the most positive kind of way. And I feel like there's something about being around a bunch of people who have that in common that is, it's nourishing and it's exciting, and it's not to the exclusion of all that other stuff. But when we were in the rehearsal space working on our tunes, we weren't aware that we're going to be playing before Charlie XCX at this festival. You know what I mean? Like, and I love Charlie XCX, but it was a different, I don't know. There's something about the way that my musical trajectory was formed that when I read that list of bands, it's like, not only are they my friends, and they've been my friends for 20 years, or acquaintances at least 25 years. And in some cases it's like a reunion. It's like a school reunion.
Right. And that's what, when you read off those bands of last year, and I think it plays into what I want to talk about with headphones as well, and sort of, but I think this is really interesting start, is that you could pick any 2 or 3 of those bands and say that's a show, and it makes sense. Even this year, you could pick any 2 or 3 bands and it makes sense. Yeah,
totally. It's cool. I mean, I get why festivals are programmed the way that they are. And I know, I mean, everybody has a different relationship with big outdoor music festivals, and it's mixed, the way that all of us interact with it and the way that we all feel about it. For me, it's mixed. I've talked to other people where it's just like, I don't really care for that, or what this one was amazing. Like, we played this one in 2000, I think, in LA. And this is a Golden Voice thing too, right?
Oh, no, it isn't Golden Voice. This is...
Okay, this isn't.
No, but what's the one you play? I'm trying to think. What was it called?
This Ain't No Picnic.
Oh, wow.
And it was Beck and Yola Tango and Grandaddy and Modest Mouse and Don Caballero and...
Wow.
Just like all these, and there was this really funny scene where Don Caballero overplayed their set, and there were 2 stages side by side. The main stage was 2 stages with their own the PA was for both of them, and it was really tight back and forth. They would just switch off. There was no changeover time, and Don Caballero overplayed their set, and then they started another song, and so they killed the PA for Don Cab and brought it up for Grandaddy, and Don Cab threw a fit in a way that was so funny. It was just, it reminds me of that kind of time. And I know that the collective, that it's a good thing that people's tastes diversify and people listen more broadly and not just in the little ecosystem that they grew up in. Like, that's a totally, it's an excellent development. I'm watching my kids do that. Their listening is so much more broad than I was when I was a kid. And it's all such a good thing, but there is something about, like you said, it feels like any of the shows that we might have played in the early days, where it's just like all these bands who have a kinship in that way.
Yeah, which I think is special and hasn't been brought to light. And so I was really nervous that first year. I'm like, is anyone going to show up? Is there anyone like me and a few of the friends that I talked to that would be stoked about this? And I was nervous. And then I have no skin in the game. I have no money. I just, I just,
like
I just liked it and wanted to help out and promoted it and said, this is going to be really cool. And to see all these people show up and they all had I was just so surprised. Like everyone's like, yeah, this is great. I'm going to play, but I'm going to be on the stage over here to see the other band and everyone needs to go. And it felt like, that. So I think for you to be involved, I didn't know all the FOMO you had for last year. That was hilarious. But to be able to, have that moment, and to be able to celebrate this again at a time where maybe when we talk about either 2000 or 2005 for this to specific era of genre, it was going the way of the buffalo. It was on to something else. So that's what I found really interesting about headphones is 2005. A lot of stuff was moving, and that one quote I think either you said in the liner notes or I read through something when I was researching was like, I don't want to keep doing this to my wife.
That's funny. I wonder what the context was of that.
Was it the touring? Was it people not showing up? Because that's what I remember. Not you specifically. Oh my God, that sounded so bad. Not you specifically, just the overall like bands that I would see. I'm like, oh, they're playing the smallest room at the Knitting Factory? That's weird. Yes. Right? Like that started to happen.
Well, and I think, that was a time too, like 2004, we were at Tape-Op-Con and there was a panel where they were like, okay, guys, this is like the future of music tech. And, you all have your brick iPods that you plug into your computer. And we're telling you that within a year or 2 years, there's going to be, devices that are wirelessly connected to the internet all the time, that you can stream songs, you could stream movies, you could sit on a park bench and watch or listen to whatever you want. And I remember our heads I just thought, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know how this is going to work if no one's buying records. And here we are 20 plus years later. And and it's been like, scrambling up an avalanche the whole time. And so, it already was starting to change then. And some of those changes are good. Underlying all of this is the democratization of music production, where you have, the Billie Eilishes of the world and the Megan Thee Stallions of the world who, are making these hit records in their bedrooms. That wasn't a thing before 2000. There weren't the means of production.
Correct.
Then, and now it's in anybody's hands. And that just means that anybody who has that impulse, who might have been shouted down by a dickhead recording engineer, when you go in and they're like, well, there was just all these obstacles to people actually feeling valid in expressing their musical ideas. And now that's gone. And does it dilute the pool of music so that my stock goes down? Hell yeah, it does. But that's a good trade-off for more voices and more. And so it's all these things happening at the same time. The kids who can't afford to go to the record store and buy CDs just can like have the healing kind of effect of listening to bands. And you hear a Judy Sill record on streaming that you couldn't have found at a record store because they were out of print, or there's all these things now. People have access to creativity and to consuming, and these things are profoundly good. If there weren't corporations who were trying to basically just profit off of it in a way that cannibalizes the artistry and the creativity, it would be a utopia in some ways. Not ones where musicians can make a living doing music that frequently anymore, but still, is that the ultimate good? I don't think it is. I think people hearing and making in a free-flowing way is the ultimate good. And so there's all these dynamics that were starting to shift in 2004, 2005. And why I made headphones at that point. I mean, I think it's just I've been wanting to make a synth record forever, and but yeah, I mean it's just been changing ever since, you know,
right?
So, like
it's
all the time.
Such an interesting year, and that shift, I think, from, like you said, this interconnected world, and these other people became involved. Like you said, the digital nature of these things. But for you with headphones, one thing that I was surprised at was people. I mean, I won't give this air too much because I'd never like to mention them, but Pitchfork, surprised that they kind of made a snarky emo comment, which makes sense because that's them, but also like instantly just saying it's Postal Service, or like that was the time period. And so I'm like, I don't know.
The DNA is so different from Postal Service. It's
right.
Crazy.
So like, what did you feel that then, or was it like, it just seems like one record becomes a certain thing, and then if I don't know, if you happen to pick up a synth, everyone's like, I don't know. It just seemed like there was this pile on.
I mean, I won't talk about Pitchfork too much.
Please don't.
Because
No.
I think the laziness inherent in that coverage is not an anomaly. But it was just, I mean, for me, you know, the impulse was, it was a creative one. There's something about creativity that's kind of problem solving at its core. Here are the tools, here are the, you know, and now you set up a collection of tools and toys, and then you just play with them. You mess around, you push them together and see what things fit, and you see what things are cool. And then and then you kind of zoom out at some point and you say, oh, I think this is done. Or it's like time to go to the mastering appointment. So we're going to stay up for 3 days and make sure that it's done. And which is what happened with the headphones record. But it's, you know, for me, I liked the Postal Service record a lot. I mean, I love Ben. I liked Dintel very much. And the songwriting is incredible. But for me, the headphones record would have more in common with Death Cab than it does.
Right.
The Postal Service,
because it was more rock.
It was wanting to use. I mean, a few things sparked it. Quasi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has so much more to do with Quasi than it does with any of the other bands that ever got name checked or talked about in that. Drums and keyboard, you know, like live drums and keyboard was the idea, and I'd loved Quasi since 1998, and it was a touch point for me. And then also like the Lips and the Flaming Lips and the just little moments of sound that I heard that I wanted to be like, I want to make that sound too. I mean, and there was some of that in the on the Postal Service record. There are sounds on that record that I was like, ooh, I like that sound. But it was like little pieces of sound that I would hear places, or little bits of inspiration from just the way that a two-piece band is set up. And I mean, that was the other thing, is I wanted it to be I wanted to have a two-piece band. And headphones wound up being that for a time. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think I get why music critics and Pitchfork and other outlets are seeing things in terms of as similarly, like we did a Radiohead cover at some point, and Pitchfork was like, oh, they know that if they do a Radiohead cover that everybody's going to hear it, and like there's this calculated, cynical motivation that people have to make stuff because maybe they do or whatever, it's projection. But it couldn't be more pure when you're, you know, you plug in an instrument and you put it through a speaker and you touch it and it makes a sound, and then you're like, I want to make that sound over and over again. I want to put some words to it. And I don't really think that you can make things from that cynical mindset that some outlets ascribed to artists.
Right. And I don't want to stick on that point. I just found it so funny when I was looking back at how it kept it was like this surface level attention of, okay, well, every artist that wasn't a punk band or did this indie rock, now they're going to do this. And they found a Moog and, and it's like, no, this is this is how art and this is how you do things naturally. And I feel like I had a bullshit meter pretty easily to be like, is this forced or not?
Yeah. You're on a river trip with all your friends and there's different boats and you're in one boat and then you're like, oh, there's a boat, it's just, it's cascading joy and inspiration. And, you get stagnant in your own playtime. And then you hear a song on the radio or you hear a song in your friend's car, or I woke up on the couch in a studio and my friend was playing a Beak song, and I just was like, "What the fuck is this?" There's just this is the process of making music, and unfortunately, and I think that music criticism obviously is an extremely important, valid part of the conversation. But I wish that more people who consume music. I think when you consume music, you can feel it, and like you said, you have a bullshit meter for that. And I saw Titus Andronicus say something on the internet the other day about playing for audiences of 10 tickets, 10 heads or 20 heads or whatever, and how there's so much joy in that. And the idea of a shrinking market share or whatever, people will give me this information. I get ticket sales information as we're getting ready to go on tour. But at a certain point, I realized I don't care. I don't care about that. I want to play. I want to feel the music, and I want to collaborate with an audience on that project, whoever they are, and there's just so much joy in it. And that's what fueled the headphones. The record is just, there's just excitement. There's always excitement around music, and it's easy to get jaded. It's easy to feel heartbroken, to feel FOMO, to do whatever. And then you just hear a song that you haven't heard before, or a song that you haven't heard in a minute, or a song that's in heavy rotation that does it for you every time for this season of your life. Like Shark Smile, or like the song Damn by Ada Lee, or, there's it just is a never ending font of beauty and creativity. And so, yeah, I love that. Exciting.
Because the part about what I enjoyed you talking about was the excitement of trying something. And like you said, your friends will say, oh, that's awesome. Here's my suggestion. Or, oh, I'm so stoked you're trying that. They're not going to be, give me the same thing, because if you just tell the same story to your friends all the time, you're going to get pretty bored. I would.
But that's it. You want to do tricks for your friends. It's like a wheelie. You're riding bikes together, and your buddy does a wheelie, and he holds it for longer than you've seen him hold it for before, and you're just like, yeah, hell yeah, And then you just want to make so much of. There's this my friend Yuki. He put out this record called Post-Tropical Cyclone, and the entire, it's this experimental kind of sound record. And the whole point of that, he made it in an afternoon, I think, or in a couple of days. And he wanted to impress our friend Richard Swift. He just wanted to make something that would make Swift go, oh, dude, and that's the right motivation to do something. It's just you want to turn your buddy on because he's turned you on before in that same way, and you just want to have that conversation. That's what it is. It's a conversation with everything that came before, and the people that or the people that you don't know. It's so thrilling. I'm almost 50. I've been doing this for a long time. My heart is fully broken by this industry and by this business and being, but all it takes is to hear something else that's new, or like I said, just it doesn't stop being exciting and motivating, and because it's the best thing in the world, music. I mean, we take it for granted. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Everyone's got it on all the time. No one wants to place any value on it. And yet we get to, do I get to go to band practice on Sunday? Yes, I do. We're going to stand in a room all day and run tunes over and over again. And now we're going to run it quiet, touching our instruments as lightly as we can. Now we're going to do a maximal version, just like exploration. And
you know what I think about is when you talked about problem solving and you've got your collection of those tools and toys, I was thinking of sandbox therapy. Have you ever heard about that?
That's it. No, but I talk about sandbox all the time. Tell me more.
So sandbox therapy is a way that you can actually help, and I'm going to butcher this so anybody that's actually a therapist would laugh at me right now, but it's basically like you have a blank canvas and you're given all of these assets and you're given a prompt. And you're saying, think about this. And then you can take whatever you want to put that together, and you can take as short or as long as you want to describe or to put it together. So you can, there's an online one that people can do, and it has all these different animals and scenes and these things you can just put together whatever story you want to do and then talk about it. So when I think of you talking about that, here's my collection of tools. I have all these things at my disposal. What am I going to do with that? And that may intimidate people that, I don't know what to do because I want to appease this or I want to do that. And to me or others, it's like, cool, I can do whatever I want. And if one person's into it, cool. Or if I just got it out, that's cool too. And that's what you said earlier about, I just want to play. I've been broken enough with this thing. I just want to keep doing this. And I just find that sandbox therapy helpful with relationships, helpful with how you handle certain things that you're going through, because you can look at it visually. And I think maybe that correlates to you in this room with everyone going through those songs, because you have everything at your disposal. You have every note at your fingertips.
You have all the notes. Well, and you can, and shoot, like making them a tape. Yeah, that's it. I feel like what you're describing is the process of making a song or a record too. But we're all fighting against this sense we know what music is. We've been told we're probably not good at it. We feel that, so many people are like, well, I'm not musical at all. And I'm like, do you have a favorite song? Do you like this song better than this song? Like, do you like, yeah, you are like, can you stomp your feet, to the music? And they're like, well, my rhythm's not very good. And it's just like, well, according to who, what does this matter?
You've never listened to jazz. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's this sense, and whatever, obviously there are certain kinds of musical expressions that are going to be a magnet for a big number of people. And okay, that's fine. But not every musical expression needs to do that. Like you're saying, maybe it's just for me. Maybe it's for me and one of my friends. Maybe it's for me and Richard Swift's Ghost, and that's all I'm doing this for.
Right.
And maybe no one else, and that's okay.
But that's the part that I fucking love.
Yes.
Like if I hear a song and it's like, you just did it for that and you just did it, and that's it. I don't know. I find there's like a depth to it. I don't know if that makes sense. I might have I don't know if I had too much coffee, but it's like very like, I like that someone's like, you know what, I'm just going to do this for me. And this is what it is. And I feel like people find that versus, I don't know. I guess people can find songs in different ways, but I like those. I like the ones that are like that. I want that one.
Yes. I agree. And I think that there's a certain amount of folks who can get down with it on that level. And it's okay that it's probably a smaller number, but it's why, it's why Daniel Johnston, was huge.
Great example.
Because, did he fit the mold of conventional pretty? I mean, his music is very pretty, but this is, yeah, it's an unguarded expression from the complexity of a human, and that it stops the traffic, as Bono said in Rattle and Hum, like it.
Yeah.
It's yeah. We're talking about headphones or whatever, and I didn't know what I was setting out to do. I just made a sandbox and populated it with some toys and thought that they made the coolest sounds. And then felt like I could layer those things together and see what happened. And like looking back, like, did it occur to me that I could use reverb and delay on those things? Nope. You can hear it. It's like, it's dry as fucking right in your face. And when I got done, I thought, this isn't what I imagined. If I was trying to ape the Postal Service or any other band, like
right, delay pedals out the ass.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have made the choices that I made, but it's ADHD, and it's Branford Marsalis at one point said something like, spending time with your instrument is spending time with yourself. And as I was trying to forge a better relationship with myself, I really thought a lot about that. And I realized why that's true is because, especially, and what he said, spending time practicing your instrument, which is an important distinction, because what that is it's spending time with your limitations. It's walking to the edge of your limitation and feeling it, and then seeing if you can push it out just a little bit more. And that process is humbling. And it's tough on your ego, but it is intimacy with yourself.
I love that.
You can only get that way. You can only get by sitting at the edge of your limitations and seeing if you can muster the courage to play at that boundary.
And also not going into the usual, well, for me, it's 6/8. I accidentally just always play that way. And I have to sit there and consciously go, all right, let's get a click track. Let's try to play this other way. Like, and then you can feel it because you could just play, but you have to sit there. And did that happen when you revisited these songs?
For me, I just was thrilled at how open I can hear my openness and my willingness to mess around in a way that I don't know that I've lost that, but you're on this journey, and like I just went back and I was like, oh, I was being very playful here. And that thrills me, because that, as the older that I get, that's the ultimate goal, is to be playful, and to, and maybe playful in trying to make a work of art that expresses grief, sure, but still there's playfulness in the making of it and in the discovery of how to do it. Mm-hmm. And so that, going back to it, and I went back to it 10 years in, and Yuki and I played the songs on a like a 10-year anniversary little house show tour of the headphones. And so like I've revisited it in certain ways, but like I hadn't, when we remastered the record, like I really got my head in it again. And I was really thrilled that it was so playful.
What's something that someone, because that gets thrown around a lot. What about this did you enjoy? What's something that someone could listen out for or understand when they see that, hey, it's remastered, I got to listen to it in a different way? I can ask it a different way. I just what I've done this before is like, oh, well, this one song, I heard it this way. And then when we remastered it, I heard it this way. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just thank God this now is up in the mix, you know?
Well, I mean, that's part of the thing is like there's the understanding the way that the mixes worked and the vocal and just wanting to be immersed in it a little bit more. Is
that a shitty question?
No, it's not at all. I think that part of it is that I feel like there are different phases, and like the original, like I don't want to. It's like to remaster it is to, I sat in the original mastering session, and we all did. We stayed up for 3 nights making the record, and Tim Walsh, Frank Lenz, Jared Hankins, and I got in the Pedro van. We were in Paulsbo, Washington. We drove around through Tacoma and up into Seattle for the mastering appointment. We got there on time, but like just barely. And we were finalizing the track order on the van ride to the mastering session. And so the mastering session that we did the first time is like a highlight in my life. And so even to make the decision to remaster it, it's funny because it's like, am I saying that wasn't good enough or whatever? And I don't really, there was one thing that caused on the record, and it's a sound in the song Wise Blood that we just didn't clock on that first go. And that was the impetus where I was like, okay, I know I want to remaster it, and just if only for this sound.
Wow.
That we want to tweak this sound so that it doesn't distract the same way. And then you have the feeling of like, are we going to mess it up? Like, is it hubris to think that we could get perspective on it any better than we had at that moment that we did it the first time? And so I went into that mastering session the second time here with Chris Colbert with humility, feeling like, I hope we can. And up until, I'm driving home, I'm listening to both versions of it just to try to think, are we fucking this up? Are we are we doing extra work to make it worse somehow? And because perspective is a tricky thing, and in the end, I think we did manage. I think that the tools are in a much different place than they were 20 years ago, mastering tools. Both digital and analog. I mean, the state of the art has really changed. And I think that's a huge part of why we were able to do something that I think is interesting and worth people hearing again. So I'm slow to answer because I don't want to diminish the first experience of mastering it with Ed Brooks, who is brilliant, and we had the best time together in that room, and mastering it the first time. And so I think that's why I hesitate, because it's all very meaningful, but we did remaster it. And, I wanted to see if there was a way. So I have a thing where I want to turn things up really loud, and I want it to engulf me, and I want the mix to hit the way that I want it to hit when it is turned up really loud. And so that was a thing that I wanted to see if we could squeeze a little bit more out of. And it's not everybody's listening to things that way. And I think we were able to. And so song-wise, I think Major Cities is kind of one of my favorite tunes on that record. And I feel like I can be inside that song when I turn it up loud on the remaster in a different way that me at Pushing 50 I really like.
I like that. And I don't think you should, I understand kind of like, this is that. I like that you have these two ones out there. I think as a fan, like I got to work with Dylan, and to be able to hear like, okay, here's take one of this song. Here's take 4. Here's this 80s version of it. Here's the two. Like, isn't that what you want? You want to see, and so there's no diminishing of that. It's kind of fun to watch that trajectory.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many layers of a record. Like, what is the record, and what is the lens, and what is the and so I think it's like a different lens on what we did in the studio, out in Paulsbo, making that weird record. And I mean, it was such a high pressure process. Like, we were up against this deadline, and I was just writing as fast as I could, and there was so much experimentation and play in the drum production, and so I'm glad. I was glad to revisit it. It made me proud of my 29-year-old self, and Walsh and Lenz and Jared and I.
Yeah. What about, why only one record under that name? You might have told the story, but I completely forgot.
No, I don't think I did. When I stopped using the Pedro name in 2005, the end of 2005, it's officially listed in places as 2006, but it was November 2005. And when that shift happened, it was because something was wrong, and I didn't know what it was. I was doing something wrong. I didn't understand why personnel shifts kept happening. I didn't understand why it wasn't working between Walsh and I. And my takeaway was, well, I need to step back from this machine, this sort of production schedule machine, tour, whatever, that is called Pedro, and try to get my head around what I'm doing and what I might be doing wrong. And so I started playing under my own name, played a few headphones things here and there, but really it was just sort of back to square one. So I played acoustic guitar, and I went around and played shows on acoustic guitar, and then I got bored of that, and I played electric guitar, and was trying to find myself. And there's more reasons and layers to talk about within that, but so I just kind of wiped the slate clean in a way, and started using my own name. And then within a few years, I was in deeper crises that I wouldn't understand for another decade. And so for me, it was just sort of life took over in this way that all I could really do was make these Bazan records, and I was barely squeezing that out, and touring like mad, and so I didn't that playfulness that I've been talking about, that I really want to cultivate, whatever that juice was just gone. Like it was work, and it was not play. And so I think Headphones was a playful headspace. Graciously, I was able to be in that for that period of time, and I'm finding my way back to it now. There might be more Headphones records, and I'll continue to play with the format, because that's kind of what the thing is for me. But my light just kept getting dimmer and dimmer, and so I was consolidating and not expanding.
That makes sense.
And so now the return to the Pedro name, like I've started to do some healing through that, and now it's expanding. I'm expanding again, but my light is getting brighter, and I can feel it. And it just, I just had there were years and at least a decade of just like cascading crises that I was just trying to stay on top of.
I know the name of the new Headphones record whenever you have it.
Okay.
Sandbox therapy. Sandbox therapy.
There you go.
Sandbox therapy.
Sandbox.
It's gonna be like
that's in my notebook.
All right, there we go. Well, I love that you've been so open, because I think I want to talk about two things. One, it's so interesting when we spoke for the last time, 2019, because I know that you were in a better place then.
I was. That was the beginning of it, yeah.
Right. And I loved that conversation. And then to have 2020, right? And to have that happen. And then now to have turmoil in a lot of different places, either war or in this place that we're in right now. And I found it interesting kind of thinking about the Headphones record, is that when I was reading the liner notes, which I actually really, really enjoyed sort of sitting with, I didn't realize it was like a post 9/11 record.
Yeah.
And because I mean, I lived in New York. I was there for it.
Of course.
All that shit. So could you talk about that a little more? Because I never put that together. I was too busy, I don't know, worrying about breakdowns at that point. But can you talk about that?
I mean, I think at that point, songwriting was a discovery. I mean, and it is, but it was more of a discovery process than it was, I'm going to write a song about this or write a song about that. And so, but I mean, in 2004, it was 3 years after, and everybody remembers, 9/11 happens, and the temperature in the country changed instantly. And the tension, like I tried to capture some of that tension on Control because it was palpable. I remember sitting at a stoplight listening to NPR and just feeling like the division between viewpoints was starker than I had ever seen it. And the tension was just building and building. And of course, it's higher now, 24 years later, than it's ever been.
Well, that's what's so crazy to think about. Like, I remember cabbies having just like American flags just out the window.
Yeah.
Like being like all that stuff, right? But now it feels like even like that's almost feels like it's pale in comparison.
It is. I mean, so we were on tour, I woke up in Chicago. Now we're talking about 9/11. I woke up in Chicago on 9/11, and that was my wedding anniversary. And it was my second wedding anniversary. And so I called, so my then wife called, and I was like, "Happy anniversary, babe." And she was crying. And I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And so we're on tour, Ann Arbor that night. We're making our way east. CMJ was meant to be that weekend, you probably recall. And so we played DC.
Wow.
And we drove past the Pentagon on our way to skip New York. We drove I'm sorry, we played Boston and went down through New York and saw the smoke and everything, and wound up in DC. The next day we were driving past the Pentagon. There's this big giant fucking hole in the side of the Pentagon, and this giant American flag draped over the edge. And the other thing that I noticed besides the patriotism was the graffiti in bathrooms started to say cowhead and racist shit. We'd see bumper stickers, and I'd overhear people saying racist shit in a diner or in the Waffle House or in, I'm picturing, it's not Freddy's, it's a Steak and Shake. And
that's Steak and Wait. Steak and Wait.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, just anyone doesn't know it. You can go, but you're gonna wait. So it's Steak and Wait.
You're gonna wait. Steak and Wait. That's why it's open all night. And so we were having. So I wrote the song "Backwoods Nation" on September 14th of 2001 because what I was experiencing was just all this tension, all this like rush to retribution and to like let's kill them all. Like this really violent feeling it just was palpable. And by 2004 it wasn't that different. I mean W was still in charge, and it's funny now to think his tone was so much different. And I know people will be like, "Oh, well, if you hated W," like it's neither here nor there, but I just was felt like I was aware of things that were happening. And so it just leaked into the Headphones record. And what it caused me to do, that and several other dynamics in my life, was just, what do you do about bullies? How do you deal with bullies? How do you deal with abuses of power? And then the effect that those abuses of power have on you, because you change as a person when you're subject to that. And what most people do in the wake of experiencing being on the receiving end of an abuse of power is that we turn around and abuse power too. And so to me, the Headphones record is about that cycle and about trying to break that cycle, or not knowing what to do with it. And there's expressions on that record that are really not cool. Hello Operator is not, I mean, it's, you know, there's just there's bullies and bullying, and I feel like that the whole dynamic that came up after 9/11 and the abuses of power that, you know, that go on with government and all these things were just like, they were blooming in my mind more and more. And I didn't know that I was doing this, but like looking back and talking to David Dark, who wrote the liner notes, and just trying to think, like, just revisiting the record and looking and thinking, what is going on thematically? It seems kind of disparate, but song to song to song, I realized, oh, this is having to do with bullying and abuses of power and the resentment and the toxicity that grows and grows in that dynamic and in that environment. And
what does it feel like playing the songs now? It's like, what are you feeling then? Like playing the songs now in this world?
I mean, along with all, I mean, in the context of the rest of the catalog, like it feels, there's some confirmation that I feel that it's like, okay, it seemed kooky at the time, but like it's just grown and grown. And so there's some validation that I feel, and then it's exercising these feelings. I mean, it's exercising these, and there's some songs that I won't play. But the ones that I do.
Why do you choose not to?
I mean, I think at a certain point, like I grew up with a mom and a sister who I could tell were being disrespected, and I could tell were being mistreated and not taken seriously. Their wit, their strength, their wisdom. So I've always been aware of that to some degree, but I think in the teens, in the aughts and in the teens, a lot of men got hip to the degree to which women deal with violence and sexism and misogyny and just being, on an email to email basis. You know, I think that even people who are aware of that there's an imbalance here. And I can say about myself, like, I just learned a lot about the experience of women from hearing women speak about it and hearing women share about their experience. And so there are songs like A Mind of Her Own from Winners Never Quit, where a man kills his wife in the song, and the song Hello Operator, in which a man fantasizes about strangling a woman to death for cheating on him, that I wouldn't have written, or I was just ignorant to the effect of a song like that, or what that was sort of expressing in terms of my own. And, you know, I think that Mind of Her Own is a character. They're both character-driven songs. A Mind of Her Own has a much bigger context in which to be interpreted. But Hello Operator, I just can't, I can't imagine being somebody who has been stalked or abused in a romantic relationship, or listening to that song and not having a fucking panic attack, or not, you know. And it's not all of that is my responsibility. All that, you know, like making art is what it is. But for me, that was a song when I heard it again after years and being educated more by that point, it just rang so yucky. And so that's, for instance, a song that I won't play.
Got it.
Because I don't want to bring that. I don't want to evoke that in the room. It's not a cool. It's like, you know, I was thinking like it's like a movie like Seven, or these kind of, there are tons of kinds of entertainment that go there. And I think more and more the way that entertainment's going, like I watched that movie. It's an M. Night movie called Split. And from the 5 minutes in, I was just so mad because it was a throwback to a time where these things weren't being considered. And it just drove me nuts. And I just don't want to contribute to that. And I already have. I know that I already have.
Mm-hmm. But it's just moving forward on that.
Yeah. And admitting that, it's important to say it publicly, I think.
Yeah. One thing that also popped out from the liner notes, which I liked, and it's very timely from yesterday's news from the Vatican. Politics isn't always theology, but theology is always politics.
David is so funny. Yeah.
So that was something that he put together after talking to you.
Yeah. We've been buddies for a long time. We met in 2003, and he's been really instrumental in my development as a person and as a thinker. And I've heard him say something similar about me, and it's really hard to fathom, but I want to honor him by admitting that. But so we've been in conversation about these things since then, like I knew him when I started writing this record and when it came out, and we bonded over this the same way that we bond over his books. So it really, we talked on the phone for about a half an hour one day about this, and he was just off and running. He just brought in so many things that we've talked about over the years. And so politics isn't always theology, but theology is always politics. I think I would need, my mind's going a bunch of different ways about it. But I think that people tend to think of theology as handed down from on high, and that it's not this highly mediated thing. It's not somehow like a thing that is grounded in humanity and bound up in our us being political animals. But it is. The way that we got these words from on high is through an emperor who consolidated this into a package that could be easily transmittable, and consolidated, dozens, hundreds of different traditions and viewpoints that had different numbers of gods in each one, and now there's one triune God. And the process by which we got the theology that we have now was itself political. And a lot of people want to think that God spoke it, and it's just coming directly to us. And it's just been through so many filters, all of them. If you can look at each filter that all these thoughts and ideas have come through, and it's all political. And it's usually wrapped up in wealth too, which is a little ironic considering a lot of the things that Jesus ostensibly said about wealth. So I think that maybe he was trying to, I guess I should have said at the beginning, like, let's get Dave on the phone.
Yeah.
Let's get David on the phone and ask him, because he would give a much better answer. But
I like that you tried to unpack it. No, it's so interesting to think about that, because again, the songs are direct. The songs are in that moment, and that's, again, there's something I don't usually, when a new record comes out, I'm not usually like, tell me about the songs, because I almost like it. I almost like it later.
Yeah.
I just like, this is interesting to look at from so many different perspectives because of where you were, what is it now, and what you've learned, and like you said, moving forward. It seems, hearing you're aware of where it's sat. You're aware of what it's doing, and there isn't a way that you're approaching things. You're making decisions. You're setting boundaries. You're saying, I won't do this. I will do that. I'm doing this on my terms. That's very powerful.
That's the hope. It's hard to, I think that this thing that we were talking about at the beginning, where when you hear somebody who just is is able to make something for themselves, or from their real impulses that isn't impacted by wanting to come off a certain way or wanting to present in a certain way. And sometimes that is a part of the art, obviously. But if it's coming from that real, Angel Olsen has a record called Burn Your Fire for No Witness. And that idea, I keep coming back to that. And her and I worked at certain points, and she was like, at the beginning, I was in a room alone making this stuff up, and now, I'm in front of everybody, and it's this very public thing, and there's this desire to return to that space where you're not thinking about bringing it to an audience at some point. You're just thinking about, you want to start a little fire and you want to sit in its glow and not be racked with self-consciousness. And like when I made the record It's Hard to Find a Friend, I wasn't aware of how self-conscious it was possible to be putting your music out to the public. Once you put out that first thing and you get critics talking about it, you put out that second thing and you get critics talking about it, you get people's perspective on it, suddenly you're aware of perception in a way that I was not aware of when I made that record. And because of that, it hits me as the most sophisticated sounding thing that I've ever made, because I was so much more free without knowing what it was going to be like for people to hear this. And that is a state that I'm glad to be aware of, because I can't put the toothpaste back in the paste, or genie in the bottle, or whatever sorry, George Orwell. Those are some dead metaphors, but I can remember that feeling and try to cultivate the version of it that's available to me now, even though I am aware of all these things.
But you're able to handle it. And I think either that was trauma or that was things you were in. But I think going back to the sandbox again, like you have that empty sandbox and you're picking whatever you want. And it's not, I have to go on this row because this thing has to get added. Say guitar, or say this certain hook. And I just think that's why I like to talk about songs and like the history of something, because you're looking at this from so many different years, and to have it's like all of those voices in your head, but to be able to have this blank canvas and say, I'm going to try this, that is so freeing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is. And it's what I long for. It's the space that to get all the dishes done, and to get all the bills paid, and to be free just to sit in your little, if it's on the edge of your bed and you've got a voice memo recorder and a guitar, or maybe it's in a studio or whatever, but just to get, just to get free in your mind, and to be able to, I'm using the word play again, but just to mess around for the joy of it. You have to be comfortable with yourself on some level. Have made peace on some level. And I think that is making peace with yourself is a lifelong struggle for probably everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that music and making music and art are a great lens to ask that, to understand if you have or not. It's a great, like, it's that Branford quote, just to spend time practicing your instrument is spending time with yourself, and it's spending time with yourself in a way that you can know, am I making peace? It's not even I almost said it, have I made peace, but it's not a one and done. It's am I making peace with myself today?
Do you have to have all your other things done before you can do that? You talked about the dishes. You talked about getting things paid. Do you have to do that before you can feel comfortable? I know when I'm comfortable. It's when I start playing a video game or I read.
Oh, reading is the thing. Yeah, reading is such a good barometer. Oh my gosh.
Do you agree? Do you feel that?
I do. I think I work better when those things are done, but I don't have the luxury of only working when those things are done, because with ADHD, sometimes I get way behind with those practical things, and it's just time to sit. And so then I'm doing the Branford Marsalis thing where I'm sitting with myself in my mess and having to, and make peace with myself in that state. Because sometimes I think I'll make peace with myself when my mess is cleaned up, and then years will go by. And it's not years where the dishes are piled up without fail, but there's other kinds of messes that the dishes represent. And and I'm looking at the dishes right now too. That's the other. That's why I said that.
That's so awesome. But it is like I can't. I will not. Like, even editing, like for this, like if I'm editing this, like I have to have all my stuff sort of figured out, because in my mind, I'm not at peace to do it.
One of the songs on Certifying a Friend, the first song of Up and Coming Monarchs, like I was, my room was a mess. The house that I lived in, I was just freaking out, and my roommate was at work, and their room was very tidy on this day. And I thought, I'm going to take my guitar and I'm going to take this piece of paper and I'm going to go up to their room, in the clean room. And I wrote that song, not start to finish, but like 80%. No. It wasn't that song. It was the song, The Longer I Lay Here, from that record, which is about laziness and the dishes and all these things. And it's very funny because I could only really access that when I was in a clean space, which I couldn't achieve for myself at that point, because I was pressing against these factors that the song was about.
Wow.
That I was wrestling with. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a part of the creative process that I don't think I talk about that much or hear people talking about, but I have a vivid memory of a time when it was so clear, you know.
And I think you have like stuff like accumulates, not just your mind, but also the stuff that you sort of like. I'm sitting next to zines that I need to scan. My hard drive that I'm looking in front of, like I owe that to someone, full of whatever I've accumulated. And that is like, and all I want to do is create something, but your mind is doing both. Like, and I have a hard time. I get stuck.
Yeah. I do too. Yeah.
That's why I sometimes find like leaving your place, like going to another place, will either distract me or I'll be fine. Like I can actually do it. Like if it's, like a coffee shop or something, I might get really distracted and analyze how long it takes for the drinks to get done and how mad people are, right?
That's why the legend of the cabin is such a real thing. You know, it's really a funny trope. But like, guy went to the cabin with his drum set and spent 6 months just figuring shit out, like Jeff Tain Watts. Or guy goes to a cabin with his guitar and a recording rig and makes a record about the Big Pink or Bon Iver. Or, I mean, it's a trope because, these writing retreats, it's really a way to, it's the same thing as like you're over at your cousin's house for Thanksgiving and you've never napped as soundly in your life as you did after Thanksgiving dinner at someone else's house.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because all of the responsibilities of that place are not yours.
Right.
They're
like
someone else's.
And like you can actually watch what's on TV. You can enjoy Christmas Vacation or whatever else got thrown on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Is that why the cabin trope, is that also why metal bands have the photos in the forest? Is that because they're also recording in cabins?
I don't know. I mean, that's just badass. I think that's what's going on there.
We just recorded 17 tracks that are 6 minutes long. Let's take a photo.
Stand on the woods.
Yeah. Anything else you want to mention about the record?
I'm grateful for this conversation, and I feel like we talked. I don't really know what to say about these records, and so I'm really grateful for the prompts that a conversation like this provides, and I feel very good about what we talked about. So,
I mean, you just announced the Grandaddy stuff. Like anything else in that world, dude? I saw that this morning, and did you know that that's going to be a party weekend because Sunny Day is playing the next night at Pappy and Harriet's.
Wow. That's really cool.
So it is I just texted somebody else that lives out there. I'm like, so by the way, I'm going to be out there for.
Dude, that is great. Well, we have these residency shows. Pedro turns 30 this year. And so we have these 5 residency shows in Seattle at Barboza. Yeah. And then, we're going to be on tour with Grandaddy in the West Coast in September. And so anybody, come and say hi. Like, that's a dream come true for me. I could go on and on about that, but I think it sums it up.
Yeah, I think there should be like some skating during the show, right?
I'm going to bring my skateboard on that trip. Right?
I feel like that should be some post-show skating.
I got to get my chops back, though. I'm going to hurt myself between now and then pretty bad.
Awesome. Cool. And then anything else you want to throw out? Get the Grandaddy tour, the Pedro stuff. How are you doing? I feel like, it feels like you're feeling better.
I'm good. So after we talked in 2019, my marriage of 20 years ended later that year, and it's been a hell of a ride, but really slowly but surely coming to a place of real peace that I haven't ever felt. And I'm very grateful to be alive, and that I'm just cultivating something that I've needed for a long time. And it's hard work, but it's really happening.
It was so fun to listen to this differently after reading the liner notes. That's the thing I was trying to get across. Like, I just was like, I didn't know any of this shit. I was dumb. 2005. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. Right? Like, I just got the record, listened to it. Like, I loved the late, like, looking at it later. And I know that doesn't help during the record cycle when you're making it, but it's fun.
I'm okay with how that, I really, like, I had that feeling then, like, these things exist, and we find them when we do, and often when we do it. And I even have had that relationship with this record too. So, it's that thing we were talking about where, whoever finds it is going to have in a meaningful way will have that kind of experience with it. And I'm really grateful. And I'm glad to be around 20 years later and, be able to think about it again myself. And like I said, I wouldn't have known what to say about it then, because I didn't know what tied it all together.
Yeah. That's what I like about it. It's like you don't know when you're anyway, I love that. Well, David, it's so an honor to talk to you, and I'm so glad we were able to get this going, and I want to help out the record. So
please say hi and at Pappy and Harriet's or and then later at that point we'll at Best Friends, and I'd love to hang out and have a drink or a smoke or whatever.
I'd love to. I'm straight edge. I will do neither. I'm joking.
Well, a drink of what do you like? Do you like soda water?
I do.
I do too.
Dude, it's so great. Not Monster Water. That's Warped Tour. Liquid Death. I'm so happy it's at venues now.
Oh yeah.
I can actually get hydrated.
That's a really good thing. I mean, so I don't drink anymore, but and soda water helped. There was a period where I was trying to slow down, And instead of having my first drink at 5, I would slam a soda water instead, and I could get to like 7 p.m. before I was jonesing again.
Yeah.
Just from drinking a Perrier real quick. You know?
The bubbles.
Yeah, it's real funny. Anyway, some form of socializing would be a joy. So,
done deal.
Well, right on. Just so I make sure I say it, I'm very, very appreciative of this conversation and to be reminded of our talk in 2019 too. Thank you so much. This is
like you're part of why I'm going to be a therapist. Like partly is your conversation in 2019.
That's an honor.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying.
Hell yeah.